I've got a million emails that I haven't read. Got a brake pad squeaking that I gotta check, but I don't mind, 'cause I got her riding on that shotgun side. With that take me till the sunrise, look inside her eyes. Now we're flying.
Hey guys, welcome back to So Beginnings by Honeybee's Design. I'm your host, Krista Ford, but if you've been here before, you already know that. Today we are on day 3, yes, day 3, or video 3, I guess we should say, of our Pelican Tote sew-along. We have just completed our darts on our exterior and our interior of the bag, and we are moving on to the closure snaps, or closure tabs. Now for this part, I would go ahead and recommend grabbing a couple of things. We are going to grab some foam. If you don't have any foam, you can use Decovil Light, or you can also use some fusible fleece. But we just want to add something that's going to give our tab a little bit of structure, so that and protection. So grab some of that. Something else I like to grab is this hole punch, because I have laminated my pattern pieces, which is a very helpful thing to do. We also want to grab a marking tool, and we're going to go ahead and grab our little, what is this, like a sew line marking tool. And if possible, you want to add some beacon fabric tack. Okay, so here we go. The first thing we want to do in our closure snaps is we want to use our template. So the pattern piece that you cut out, we want to use that and go ahead and mark this hole right here. If you don't have, oh, that's not going to fit. Okay, let's scratch our hole punch. And we're going to go the other route. I have these leather punches here, so I'm just going to use those because my hole punch is not going to work. I want to mark this little centerpiece in my pattern piece so that I can use that as a placement. I want to make sure I don't get a really big one, just a small enough one to stick a pinhole through. So I'm going to put that right on top of there. And if you've ever seen those, make sure I'm right in the middle. Yep. If you've ever seen those credit card slots that have the little holes at the end of them, this tool can be very helpful for that too. All it does is punch a hole in your fabric. Okay, so this one's going to fit. I'm going to put that on there, and I am just going to do a nice little tap. Just like that. Let's tap that. Pull that out, and it put a hole right in there. Again, this is called like a leather punch, or just a punch tool. So if I remember, I will link this below, but if not, you can find them on Amazon. I still have never got an Amazon shop. I don't know why, but I haven't. Okay, so once we do that, we'll move these out of the way. We're going to go to our pieces. Put that over there. Alright, we have 4 of them. And we're going to go to the back of them, and we are going to mark on our pattern piece exactly where that's at. On each one. So just mark them. Nice little marking. And this should be approximately, as you see on the pattern piece, 1.5 inches up from our bottom. Again, we're just marking. Just marking. Okay. Now what we're going to do here, I'm going to go ahead and do it on both sides. I don't know that that's going to work. Just going to do it on both sides. That way I have it. I know exactly where to put both things. I'm sure you could just do it at the front and not do it at the back, but I'm excessive. Okay, so here we go. Now, we are going to be installing our magnetic snaps, and we want to make sure that we are putting our male on 2 and our female on 2. And we are going to use our little foam pieces to make sure that we are protecting that snap from coming through the fabric. So let's go ahead and cut this. We need 4 of them, so we'll just cut this right in half this way and right in half this way. Doesn't have to be exact. Get my glue out. Now I'm just going to add me a nice little dot on there, just to make sure that stays good and protected. That foam will stay right on there. Okay. Place this on here. Sometimes I just fold it over like that just to make sure it's kind of centered so it stays all around. And it just adds a little protection. That's all it's doing. Alright, give that a few minutes to dry, and we're going to grab our magnetic snaps, get those marked out, and installed onto our little tabs. Okay, if your magnetic snaps came with these washers, they're going to work perfect. You want to take that little center hole and place it right on top of the mark you made on the right side of your fabric. And then we'll get our marking tool again, and we're going to mark the sides. This is going to tell us exactly where we need to place our snap. Okay. Move those off there. Let's get our seam ripper. I like to use this one by Tula Pink. And I'm just going to place a nice little slit right here. And I'm making sure I'm puncturing that foam as well. Now, I wouldn't make it too big because we can always go in there and lengthen it if we need to. But we can't really close it up as much if we go too far. So just make a nice little hole in there. And again, we're going to put our male snap on this one. Right here, or excuse me, the female. It doesn't matter which one. Here's our female snap. Okay, so the 2 lines that we made, I guess I should have walked you through that. I'm sorry. I got a little ahead of myself. Let me bring you in a little bit. Okay, so the 2 lines that we made and cut through, we're going to take our female portion and we're just going to push them through right here. There we go. Make sure that's nice and straight. Looking good. And then we're going to grab our washer. We're going to put it on these prongs on the back. And then we're just going to open it out. Just like that. And see how that adds some security so it's not poking through to your fabric? Now, if you want right here, you can fuse a little piece of SF101 or woven fuse over it. But what I've seen a lot of people doing lately is grab a little duct tape. It's never going to be seen, and it works amazing. So that, my friends, is what we're going to use. A little bit of duct tape. Place that right over there. And that's going to keep that nice and secure. Alright, then we're going to grab our other piece and line that up right sides together. Just like that. Make sure it's nice and lined up. Grab a couple clips. Whoop. Nice and lined up. I just like to make sure my center markings are nice and lined up, so I know I'm doing right. Okay, now we're going to do our male snap. We've already punctured our little slits. We're going to push that through, just like that. Hopefully you can see that well. Again, get our washer. Put that on the back of there. I like to open my prongs out. If it gets a little hard to do that, just use the side of your table or anything to help push those down. Again, we're going to grab another piece of tape, put that over there, or like I said, you can just fuse something over there, whatever you're more comfortable with. We're going to grab this, make sure our center markings line up again. Well, that's what I like to do, and clip them. Everything's nice, lined up. Okay. Clip those. We've got protection on this side to make sure it doesn't come through, and we've got protection on this side to make sure it doesn't come through. Alright, we're going to head over to the sewing machine, and we're going to go ahead and sew these down. Okay, so we are going to do this at a 3mm stitch length, and we are going to be using a 1/4 inch seam allowance, so a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and we are going to again do the U shape. So we're going to start here, go around, and go up. There we go. Trim these threads. Again, we did not sew our top, so we'll go ahead and take those clips off now, and we are going to turn these inside out. Now, before you turn these inside out, let me give you a couple of tips. Now, you can use these pinking shears and go around your corners, and that's going to cause little V's in your fabric, which is going to help those curves stand out. So if you don't have pinking shears, just cut little, well, those are too little. Let's get a little stronger pair. We just need to cut little V's in our fabric, just like this, just so that fabric will spread. But if you have pinking shears, it does it for you. So because I have pinking shears, that's exactly what I'm going to do. I am just going to go around and just pink these edges. We're good to go. Now we want to turn these inside out. Now we've got that turned around. I'm going to use this little tool I purchased from Sarah Lawson at So Sweetness. It's a turning tool or something. No, this isn't a turning tool. What is this? Yeah, it's a turning tool. Okay. And I'm just going to push out my seams. Just like that. Look how cute. I like it. I almost feel like you could even put a little something right there. A little initial or something. I don't know. Okay, so there we go. I'm going to do the same thing to this one, and then we'll come back and do our top stitching. Okay, once we've got these turned inside right, we can take these to the ironing board and go ahead and press those. Because now we're actually going to top stitch all the way around, even closing this top edge. So go ahead and press those, make sure they're turned out. A good suggestion is I always like to keep a nice little wet cloth near, or even a spray bottle, so you can roll these seams out. Because you want to roll those seams out as good as possible. So I'm going to go ahead and iron my pieces, and then we'll head to the sewing machine and get these top stitched.
And she's always got all of the lyrics wrong, but she don't mind it. No, she's still shining. We got 10 miles of open road. Blasting the radio, no one around. Don't have to take it slow. We're good to go. Yeah, we're good to go. I'm not looking for a shortcut, even when
I'm going to back stitch right here. Then I'm going to end right where I started, just because I didn't back stitch at the beginning. So I'm going to back stitch, go over. Again, this is where your hand cranking can come in. Back stitch one. There we go. Now I'm locked and loaded. Clip my stitches, or let's clip my threads, guys. I don't want to clip my stitches. And there we go. But if you see right here, See how that just almost looks like one long stitch? I hope y'all can see that. Let's see. Let's turn some of this lighting. Can you see right here where this is like one long stitch up here, but then down here you can see the definite stitches? It's the change in the width of the fabric, the thickness. That's a tension issue. So if I could have changed the tension up there, that would have fixed that. But because that's going to be not going to be seen, it doesn't really matter. Okay, this time I'm going to sew with this one up, facing up, because I think it would be easier. Clip our threads. There we go. Again, we're not going to see these back stitches because we're going to pull out our lining pieces. And let me go ahead and pull you all out so you can see. We're going to grab our lining pieces, the two linings, flip it over to the right side. Let's do the one without the pocket first. And we are going to put our female in the center. So a good thing to do here is in the beginning I could have snipped that, but I didn't snip it, so I'm going to mark it. It's marked my middle. Y'all have heard me say that. Go ahead and mark my middle on this one. And if I'm not mistaken, I done slits in my... did I lose a lid? There it is. If I'm not mistaken, I've done little slits. See these little slits? This is where they're going to come in handy, because now I know exactly where my middle is and I don't have to worry about trying to find it. It's going to help me to line this female right up to that little snipping part. So let me clip that. And I'm going to clip it on both sides. I'm just lining up my raw edges right here. Lining up my raw edges. And this is probably too many clips, but y'all know I love my clips. I like my clips, guys. And we want our little magnetic snaps facing up. So, okay, and right here we're going to go back to the sewing machine and we're going to base this in place at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So let's see if I can remember to hold my threads, Kristen. Where's my threads? I'm going to try to get in the habit of that.
She's always got all of the lyrics wrong, but she don't mind it. No, she's still shining.
This one. So we've got our two lining panels. And we've got our snap closures basted on. And now we are ready for the next step. Okay, for our next step, we are on the Pelican Tote pattern, page 10. We're going to be working on our straps. And these straps need to be 4 inches by 25 inches long. And because I have one strap that is 4 inches by 25, that'll be fine, but I have another one that I just have 2 pieces with. And the way to rectify that is I'm going to show you all how to connect 2 long strips and make it to one so that we can use it for a strap. Because not all, if you buy a roll of cork, you buy a roll of vinyl, it's not always going to measure up. So you're going to have to sometimes piece it together, and that's what we're going to do here. So we're going to take our first strap and we're going to lay it down face up, and this is the same as adding binding. Then we're going to take our second strap and we're going to lay it face down, so our right sides are together, and we're going to line up these raw edges. I'm going to go ahead and clip those just to make sure there's no shifting. I'm just clipping them. I want to make sure that they are lined up. You want to be as very precise as possible, because if not, this is not going to work. And the good thing to do now is to test it. So when this comes out, is this going to line up right? Yes. Now, if you had one that's right side and one that's wrong side, you know that one of these two are flipped wrong. So just make sure when you pull this piece over that you're looking at one continuous strip. And that's what I see here. So once I get this laid down, I'm going to grab a straight ruler of any kind just to give me a guideline, and I'm going to mark it right here. So it's going to, and I'll tell you, a good thing to do is to even pull this up a little bit. So you know 100% you have a V right here, and you can just follow that V if you're worried about it lining up right. So we know there's a V right here. Let me point to that just so you can see. There's going to be a V right here. And then down here, there's an upside down V. So we want to start our needle right here, and we want to end our needle exactly right there. So what I like to do, just to have a little guideline and to make sure that it's going to do just that, is I like to go ahead and I like to mark mine, just to ensure that I'm going to follow this exact sew line. And so I don't have any shifting in the process of my sew. I'm going to grab me a little needle, and I'm going to pin right here, because I want to make sure that that's going to stay straight. Because if it shifts just the slightest, then we're not going to have a nice straight edge. And a nice straight edge is exactly what we need here. So go ahead and hold my threads, and I'm going to put my needle down right at the very beginning of that line, right in that V. I mean, you want it right in there. And I'll pull you in so that you can see what I'm talking about. We're right here, and I'm starting just right in at this V. And I'm going to follow this line all the way down, ending right here in this upside down V. Okay, so here we go. Be sure to back stitch at the beginning and ending. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to lower my stitch length to a 3mm stitch length. Now I'm getting close to it. When I get real close, I'm going to go ahead and hand crank that just to make sure that stops right there. Then I'm going to back stitch and forward stitch. Pull that right out. Clip those threads. And I'm going to take my pins and my clips off. Let's see what we got. Oh, that bent my little pin. I got so many bent pins. Again, I'm rough. I'm so heavy-handed on things. Okay, so let's see what we got. Move these threads to the back. So if I am to fold this over, I should have a seamless line right across here. And that's exactly what I've got. I'll go through and I'll trim this little bit right here off. And we'll be doing that right now anyways on a cutting mat.
10 miles of open road, blasting the radio.
Now we want to make sure to finger press this open. So go ahead and press this part open. And we will see a little bit protruding on each side, but we're going to just trim that right off. Finger press that open, just like that. Normally I would have used a smaller rotary cutter right here, but you use what you got, right? And just trim that little part off. Make sure it's lined up right with our strap. There we go. Now, if you wanted to, you could use some double-sided tape right here and make sure that lays flat. However you want to do it, it's fine. Alright, so now we have our two, well, actually, we probably need to cut this down to 25 inches. Because we need two of them that's 4 inches by 25 inches. So, we are going to have to cut this right here.
10 miles of open road, blasting the radio.
And now we have our two 4-inch by 25-inch straps. There we go. Oh, that's so cute. I like it. Okay, so now let's get our straps assembled. For this part, I'm going to recommend getting out some double-sided tape because we are working with cork and we cannot iron it. You can, but it's just easier not to iron it, because it does compromise the cork and it just makes it a little soft. So if you can avoid ironing it, I would. Unless you absolutely have to. And then I would only do that for a mere second or two. Okay, I'm adding some double-sided tape to each side just to help keep this little seam allowance open. Because I want to lessen the bulk in there. Okay. Got that. Alright, and then I want to take, and I know that this is a 4-inch strap, so I need to get a ruler, and I want to mark 2 inches down all the way through. So 2 inches down. And I'm going to make a mark all the way down the center at 2 inches. Oh, that's not going to help me, is it? There we go. And I'm going to lay a piece of double-sided tape all the way down that 2-inch mark.
Down it, no one around, don't have to.
Alright, there's one. Let's grab my other. Again, I'm going to do 2 inches all the way down.
Down it, no one around, don't have to take it slow. We got 10 miles of open road.
Okay, so now we've got our double-sided tape on here. And the idea is we are going to pull some of, let's start down here since that part don't want to come off. Wow, this is tougher than I thought. There we go. Okay, we want to pull this strap in right on the other side of that line. Not over the line, but just right on the other side of that line. And I'm hoping you can see that. Just on the other side of the line. Because if we overlap both sides over that line, we're going to cause a big bump in the middle. And we don't want to do that. So we're just going to bring it right to the other side of that line. Guys, this tape is so sticky. You wouldn't think it would be that sticky for double-sided tape, but it is.
Don't know. Yeah, there's so much we can't control. But we got both windows down and
now let's just keep re-mashing down because mine come out a little wavy if I don't. So there we go. Now we're going to take and we're going to fold it over one more time. And this time we're going to add a couple of clips. Every little bit, we want to line up these folded edges the best we can. Okay, if that end's not even, don't worry about it. It's going to be down in the seam allowance. So see how that is? That's alright. It does not matter. It's going to be in the seam allowance, never to be seen. There's our strap, guys. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and do the other one.
Don't know. Yeah, there's so much we can't control. But we got both windows down and wide open ground. Ain't gonna take it slow.
Here we are, guys. We've got our straps They're completed and ready. All we need to do is go ahead and top stitch both long edges of the strap. And we're going to top stitch with an 8-inch seam allowance. So we're going to start at one end, and we're going to go all the way down, cross, and back up the other end. Okay, sewing friends, is it just me, or does this thing make my voice sound extremely weird? But anyways, thank you for tagging along on day 3 of our Pelican Tote Sew Along. Be sure to check out their website, bagstocks.com, to get your free pattern, and as always, be inspired.